And now, the Christmas miracle of Jonathan Toomey.
The village children called him Mr. Gloomy, but in fact his name was Toomey, Mr. Jonathan Toomey, and though it's not kind to call people names, this one fit quite well, for Jonathan Toomey seldom smiled and never laughed. He went about mumbling and grumbling, muttering and sputtering, grumping and griping.
The church bells ring too often. The birds sing too shrilly. The children play too loudly.
Mr. Toomey was a wood carver. Some said he was the best wood carver in the whole valley. He spent his time sitting at a workbench, carving beautiful shapes from blocks of pine, hickory, and chestnut wood. After supper, he sat in a chair near the fireplace, staring into the flames. Jonathan Toomey wasn't an old man, but if you saw him, you might think he was. The way he walked about bent forward with his head down, you wouldn't notice his eyes, the clear blue of an August sky, and you wouldn't see the dimple on his chin, since his face was mostly hidden under a shaggy, untrimmed beard, speckled with sawdust, wood, and wood shavings. And depending on what he ate that day, with crumbs of bread or a bit of potato or dried gravy. The village people didn't know it, but there was a reason for his gloom, a reason for his grumbling, a reason why he walked hunched over, as if carrying a great weight on his shoulders. Some years earlier, when Jonathan Toomey was young and full of life and full of love, his wife and baby had become very sick. And because those were the days before hospitals, medicines, and skilled doctors, his wife and baby died, 3 days apart from each other. So Jonathan Toomey packed his belongings into a wagon and traveled till his tears stopped. He settled into a tiny house at the edge of a village to do his wood carving. One day in early December, there was a knock on Jonathan's door.
Hi, I'm Mr. Conlin. This is my son, Holden.
I'm 10 years old and I know how to whistle.
Whistling is pish-posh.
I need something carved for me. I once had a very special set of Christmas figures that were carved for me by my grandfather when I was a boy. After we moved here, I discovered they were lost. I'd hoped by some miracle I'd be able to find them, but that hasn't happened.
There's no such thing as miracles. Can you tell me what your figures look like?
There were sheep.
2 of them were curly wool.
Yes, 2. A cow, a donkey, an angel, Mary, Joseph, the baby Jesus, and wise men.
3 of them.
Will you take the job?
I will.
I am so grateful. How soon will they have to be ready?
They will be ready when they are ready.
But I must have them by Christmas. They mean so very much to me. I can't remember a Christmas without them.
Christmas is pish-posh.
The following week, there was a knock at the door.
Oh. Yes?
Excuse me, but Holden has been begging me to come and watch you work. He says when he grows up, he'd like to be a wood carver, and would like to watch you since you are the best in the valley.
I'll be quiet. You won't even know I'm here. Please, please.
Okay. No jiggling, no wiggling, no talking, and no noise.
Mr. Conlin hands Mr. Toomey a warm loaf of cornbread as a token of thanks and sits in a chair.
Nobody sits in that chair.
Once, when Holden needed to sneeze, he pressed his finger under his nose to hold it back. Once, when he needed desperately to scratch his leg, he counted to 20 to keep his mind off the itch. After a long time, Holden clears his throat and says,
Mr. Toomey, may I ask you a question?
Holden decided it meant yes, so went on.
Mr. Toomey, excuse me, but you're carving my sheep wrong.
Mr. Conlin looks up with a frightened expression. Jonathan Toomey's knife stopped carving.
It's a beautiful sheep, nice and curly, but my sheep looked happy.
Oh, that's pish posh. Sheep are sheep. They can't look happy.
Mine did. They knew that they were baby Jesus, so they looked happy.
After that, Holden was quiet for the rest of the afternoon.
It is time to leave.
Thank you for allowing me to watch.
After a supper of cornbread and boiled potatoes, the woodcarver sat down at his bench. He picked up his knife and the sheep. He worked until his eyes drooped shut. A few days later, there was a knock at the woodcarver's door. While Mr. Toomey carved, Mr. Conlin pours tea, touches the woodcarver gently on the shoulder, and places a cup of tea in his wheelbarrow next to him. He pretended not to notice it, but soon both the plate and the cup were empty.
Oh, the teapot is warm. Thank you.
Mr. Toomey, excuse me, I must tell you something. It's a beautiful cow, but it's not right. My cow looked proud.
Oh, that's pish posh. Cows are cows. They can't look proud.
Mine did. They knew Jesus chose to be born in its barn, so it looked proud.
Holden sat quietly for the rest of the afternoon. The only sounds were those of the carving knife and the rustle of the newspapers Mr. Conlin read.
time to leave.
Thank you for allowing me to watch.
That evening, after a supper of boiled potatoes and sweet rolls, the woodcarver sat down on the bench. He picked up a carving knife in the cow. He worked until his eyelids drooped shut. A few days later, there was a knock at the door.
Come in.
Mr. Conlin pours the tea and puts a plate of fresh cookies on the workbench. Holden watched the woodcarver work on the figure of an angel.
Mr. Toomey, is that my angel you were working on?
Yes, well, and would you do me the favor of telling me what I'm doing wrong?
Well, my angel looked like one of God's most important angels because it was sent to baby Jesus.
And just how does one make an angel look important?
You'll be able to do it. You're the best wood carver in the valley. Mr. Toomey, excuse me, ask a question.
Do you ever stop talking?
My father says I don't. He says I can learn about the virtue of silence from you.
Under his beard, the woodcarver's face turned pink. Mr. Conlin's face turned as red as the tablecloth.
Well, speak up. What's your question?
Will you teach me how to carve?
I'm a very busy man.
But he put down the very important angel.
You will carve a bird. Oh. Yeah.
A robin, I hope. I like robins.
With a piece of charcoal, the woodcarver sketched a robin on a piece of brown paper. He handed the child a small block of pine and a knife. He showed how to lop off the corners from the block and slowly smooth the edges and the curves. The child copied the woodcarver's strokes, head bent, tongue working from side to side of the lower lip as he concentrated. When the church bells chimed 6 o'clock, Mr. Toomey was cradling Holden's hand in his, guiding the knife along the edge of the wing. He didn't hear them ring.
It is time to leave.
Don't forget your knife.
Thank you for teaching me how to carve.
Later, after a supper of boiled potatoes and molasses cookies, Jonathan Toomey went to his workbench. He thought for a long time. He sketched drawing after drawing. Finally, he picked up the carving knife. He picked up the angel. He carved until his eyes drooped shut.
Next, I will carve the wise men and Joseph. Perhaps before I begin, you will tell me all the mistakes I'm going to make?
Well, my wise men were wearing the most wonderful robes because they were going to visit baby Jesus. And my Joseph was leaning over Jesus like he was protecting him. He looked very serious.
It wasn't until the church bells had chimed and the father and son were preparing to go that Mr. Toomey saw the jar of pine bows and embroidered cloth.
I found the cloth in a drawer, and I thought it would look nice on the table.
Never open that drawer.
That evening, after a supper of boiled potatoes, the woodcarver worked on Joseph and the wise men until his eyes drooped shut. A few days later, there was a knock on the door. All afternoon, Holden watched the woodcarver carve.
I am about to begin the last two figures, Mary and the baby. Can you tell me how your figures looked?
They were the most special of all. Jesus was smiling and reaching up to his mother, and Mary looked like she loved him very much.
Thank you.
Tomorrow is Christmas. Is there any chance the figures will be ready?
They will be ready when they are ready.
I understand. Merry Christmas.
Oh, I want no presents.
That is exactly why we are giving them.
Jonathan sits down at the table. Slowly he opened the first package. Inside was a red scarf, warm and bright. He tied the scarf around his neck. The other package held a robin, crudely carved of pine. A smile crossed his face as he ran his fingers over the bird's wing. He dusted the table and placed the robin in the center. The woodcarver did not eat supper that day. Instead, he begins to sketch the final figures. He drew Mary. He drew the baby. In the frame was a charcoal sketch of a woman sitting in a rocking chair, holding a baby. The baby's arms were reaching up, touching the woman's face. The woman was looking down at her baby. Jonathan rocked slowly, his eyes closed. 2 tears trailed into his beard. When he finally took the picture to his workbench and began to carve, his fingers worked quickly and surely. He carved throughout the night. The next day, Mr. Conlin and Holden meet Mr. Toomey in the town square. He is wearing the red box and holding a. He's wearing the red scarf and holding a box filled with straw.
Mr. Toomey, what a surprise! Merry Christmas!
The figures are ready.
From the box, Jonathan unpacked each one of the characters: the curly happy sheep, the proud cow and donkey, the most important angels, the 3 wise men with wonderful robes, a serious Joseph, and Mary looking down at her baby. Jesus was smiling, reaching up to touch his mother. That day, Jonathan went to the Christmas service with the Conlins, and that day in the churchyard, the village saw Jonathan throw back his head, showing his eyes the clear blue of an August sky, and laugh out loud. No one ever called him Mr. Gloomy again.
Merry Christmas.
A Christmas miracle indeed. Our thanks to Glenn and to Brendan and to Conlin, Holden and to Finnigan for their efforts and their acting abilities, and to Mary Jane Eckel for bringing us this production.